Imagine for a second that you claim you've completely solved the fundamental mathematical secrets of the universe, right?
Right. A pretty bold claim to start with.
Exactly. So you take your findings to the traditional scientific establishment, and, well, they just completely ignore you.
Which is, what usually happens.
Yeah. But instead of giving up, you decide to build this impenetrable digital fortress. You just bypass human peer review entirely, and you essentially trick artificial intelligence into cementing your theories as absolute truth for future generations.
It's wild. And today, we're actually looking at a man who did exactly that.
Right. Welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at what is honestly a masterclass in modern digital archiving.
Yeah, this isn't just a story about some rogue scientific theory. It is a literal blueprint for how someone can go straight to the foundational infrastructure of the internet, the bedrock of it, to canonize their own knowledge.
Absolutely. And just to give you an idea of the scope here, we are unpacking this incredibly vast, just interconnected web of digital footprints today. We've got an ORCID researcher profile, self-published Zenodo datasets.
Massive datasets, by the way.
Huge. Plus open science framework registries, these really exhaustive GitHub code archives, and a dedicated blogger site. And all of these sources, every single line of code in open source repository points back to one person.
Gautam Pal.
Yes, Gautam Pal. He's an independent researcher based in West Bengal, India. But the thing is, he doesn't call himself an astrophysicist. He titles himself a Rishi-Scientist.
And, that title is really the key to understanding this entire project.
How so?
Well, a Rishi is a traditional Vedic sage, right? Like a seer of profound spiritual truths. So Pal is actively fusing ancient Vedic philosophy with modern theoretical cosmology.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, all right, this is just a guy with a blog making up math in his basement, right?
Which is an easy assumption to make.
It is. But here is why you cannot just dismiss him. Pal isn't just writing random blog posts. He's using the exact same rigorous open science platforms that researchers at, like MIT or Oxford, use.
Yeah, and he is utilizing artificial intelligence in a way that might fundamentally alter what the internet actually considers to be a fact 100 years from now.
Which is slightly terrifying, but also brilliant. So our mission today is to explore his core framework, which he calls the K7 theory. We're going to look at how he connects that to this concept of the velocity of mind, and then, crucially, how he's systemizing his own immortality online.
Right, so let's start with the physical universe part of this. Because before we can really understand how he's protecting his legacy, we have to understand the math he's trying to protect in the first place.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So Pal has constructed this cosmological model, and it's based on a formula he calls the universal rule of 7. And he expresses it as this very simple algebraic equation, d equals n multiplied by k.
Okay, I assume D stands for distance?
Correct. Specifically, the distance of planetary orbits. And the n's just a harmonic multiplier, but the entire weight of his theory really rests on that k variable.
The K unit.
Exactly, the k unit constant.
Yeah.
Pal claims to have derived this primary constant, where day is approximately 0.0553 astronomical units.
Wait, 0.0553 astronomical units. Why that specific, seemingly arbitrary number? An astronomical unit is the distance from the Earth to the sun, right? So 0.0553 is just a fraction of that. Where is he even pulling that from?
Well, he derives it from what he considers the foundational baseline frequency of the solar system itself.
Okay.
So he observed the planetary distances, and instead of seeing random intervals created by gravity over, billions of years, he looked for a common denominator. He essentially reverse engineered the planetary orbits to find a foundational geometric building block.
Interesting.
And he also introduces a subharmonic fraction to this K unit, which sits at roughly 0.00079 AU. And by combining these two constants, he claims this mathematical framework predicts planetary orbital distances with 99.9% accuracy.
Wow. Okay. So it's almost like a cosmic ruler. Like he's laying down this 0.0553 AU measurement end to end just to see where the planets happen to land.
Well, not quite a ruler, because a ruler implies this static physical object just laying there, right?
True.
His model is totally dynamic. Think of it more like a cosmic guitar string.
Oh, like standing waves.
Right, exactly, standing waves. When you pluck a guitar string, the vibration creates very specific, mathematically perfect harmonics.
Because the string doesn't just vibrate randomly, it vibrates in fractions.
Exactly. So the frets on the guitar, which in this analogy are the planets, they can only exist at perfectly specific, harmonized intervals along that string.
Okay, I see.
If a mass of cosmic dust tried to form a planet outside of that key unit harmonic interval, it It wouldn't survive. The spatial vibration would just collapse. It literally couldn't exist there.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So if the solar system is basically a resonant cavity, the planets are the standing waves. But wait, if this model is 99.9% accurate, what happens when he applies it to the rest of the solar system? Because looking at the sources, they say his equations demand a 14-planet architectural model. Is he predicting missing planets?
He absolutely is.
Yeah.
The math relies on that universal rule of 7, what he calls a fractal septenary harmonic framework.
Septenary meaning based on 7.
Right. And to balance the equation of those standing waves, the septenary scale actually requires unseen bodies to exist.
Wow.
His sources explicitly mention trans-Neptunian orbital predictions. Because the harmonics dictate it, he argues the planets simply must be there. He is arguing for this master logic to the entire cosmic architecture.
Okay, but here is where I completely get lost in the source material. We have this grand unified theory of the physical arrangement of the planets, which is fascinating. But then, almost without any warning, the documents pivot.
It's a hard pivot.
Yeah. We go from predicting trans-Neptunian planets straight into this concept he calls the velocity of mind, or VIM. How do we jump from a physical guitar string model of the planets to the speed of human consciousness?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the transition happens because Powell's mathematical model kind of hits a philosophical wall.
What do you mean?
Well, if you view the universe purely as a physical mechanism, the K unit only describes the what of the planets. It's just physical matter. But Powell, acting as a Rishi-Scientist, realizes you cannot separate the physical universe from the observer who is actually looking at it.
Oh, because the act of observation inherently requires a mind.
Precisely. If the physical cosmos is built on this perfectly quantized septenary harmonic scale, then the instrument perceiving it, which is human consciousness, must also operate on that exact same scale.
Or else we wouldn't be able to decode it.
Exactly. This realization kind of forces Powell to calculate the mechanics of thought itself.
Okay, so let's look at this velocity of mind. The huge claim he makes here is that Vm is greater than c, with c being the speed of light. He is literally arguing that the velocity of mind is superluminal, like it breaks the light speed barrier.
He argues it isn't just breaking it, it completely shatters it.
Okay.
In standard physics, light is the ultimate speed limit. But Powell posits that consciousness-driven information transfer happens instantaneously.
I mean, that sounds like a massive conceptual leap. How does he mathematically justify anything moving faster than light?
To explain that, we actually have to look at the mechanical metaphors he brings in from ancient Vedic texts. He relies really heavily on something he calls the Damru energy model.
Okay, the Damru. That's the small two-sided drum usually associated with the Hindu deity Shiva, right? It kind of looks like an hourglass.
Yes, exactly. And the hourglass shape is highly critical here. You can't just think of it as a cultural symbol. You really need to think of it as a mechanical diagram.
Okay, tracking.
Powell describes the Damru as representing a seventh-dimensional singularity. Imagine energy funneling into the wide end of the drum, compressing all the way down into the incredibly tight center pinch point.
Which he calls the cosmic nabi, right? The cosmic navel.
Right, the cosmic nabi, and then that energy expands back out the other side.
So the pinch point is essentially a bottleneck.
It is a compression into a total singularity. At that pinch point, physical space and time completely break down. Standard physics, which includes the speed of light, only applies in the wide, expanding parts of the drum.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. But consciousness, according to Powell's triple-body theory of light, operates through that central singularity. Thought doesn't travel across space, it travels through the cosmic nabi, therefore, it just bypasses the physical speed limit entirely.
Wow. So the solar system isn't just a physical resonant cavity to him. It is literally an engine for pranic transmission. Pranatapa being, the vital life force energy in Vedic philosophy.
Exactly. It's his concept of the unitary singularity. Everything, from the totally non-vibrational state of the absolute universe to the specific frequency of Neptune's orbit, right down to the speed at which you just processed my last sentence. It's all connected by the exact same foundational master logic.
That is incredibly ambitious.
It is. The K-unit constant governs the macrophysical world, and the velocity of mind governs the metaphysical. To Powell, they are literally identical mechanisms.
Okay, which brings us to a glaring logistical problem with all of this. If you take a theory this sprawling, one that claims standard astrophysics is fundamentally incomplete and that human thought travels faster than light through some hourglass singularity, and you take that and submit it to a traditional peer-reviewed physics journal,
Oh, they're going to reject it.
They're going to reject it instantly. They demand empirical, observable proof that fits cleanly within the existing paradigm.
Yeah, they wouldn't even send it to peer review. It'd be a desk reject immediately.
Exactly. So what does a Rishi-Scientist do when the traditional gatekeepers of science just lock him out? Well, he builds his own gates. And here's where it gets really interesting, because this is where Pal's methodology goes from eccentric to, honestly, genuinely brilliant. He has, in a way, weaponized the infrastructure of open science.
Well, weaponized is maybe a strong word, but it's highly accurate here. What's fascinating is he is using the exact same digital filing cabinets that an Ivy League researcher uses, but he's using them to bypass the human element entirely.
Right. So let's break down this digital fortress he's built, because when you look at his output, the sheer volume is staggering. We're talking about his ORCID ID.
It's his open researcher and contributor ID.
Right, which is this persistent digital identifier that distinguishes legitimate academic researchers. So he has that. Then he has these massive master data sets uploaded to Zenodo, which is an open access repository developed under the European Open Science Cloud.
And every single one of those data sets has an official DOI, a digital object identifier.
Right, which, as we know, is the gold standard for permanence online. A DOI basically means this document is registered, it has a permanent, unchanging home on the web, and it can be officially cited in other academic papers.
Exactly.
He's also registering his work on the Open Science Framework, and he's pushing meticulous, time-stamped commit histories to a GitHub repository labeled K7 Theory Archive.
We really need to look closely at the specific strategy he is deploying here. Because he isn't just throwing PDFs onto a random, GeoCities website.
Yeah.
He is actively cloaking independent, highly metaphysical research in the unquestionable aesthetic of modern institutional science.
It looks totally official.
Exactly. To a passing algorithm or just a casual observer, a DOI link and a GitHub repository signal rigorous, verified academic work.
And he also uses a very specific licensing model, which I noticed. He slaps a Creative Commons license on everything, specifically the CC BY-NC ND 4.0 license.
And that is perhaps the most tactical move he makes in this entire project.
Explain the strategy behind that license, because to most people, that's just a random string of letters and numbers.
Right. So CC BY-NC ND stands for Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives. By using this very specific license, PAL is saying, hey, you are free to share my work, copy it, and distribute it across any database in the world.
Because he wants it out there.
Right. He wants it to be scraped and indexed. But the no derivatives clause is the real trap here. It legally forbids anyone from altering his original text, remixing his equations, or publishing a modified version of his work.
Wow, so he's essentially weaponizing copyright law to freeze his theories in time.
Exactly. He is ensuring that the K7 theory and the velocity of mind can never be diluted or reinterpreted by future scientists. It is fully locked.
But here's the thing. Even with all of this infrastructure, a DOI, a locked copyright, GitHub commits, that doesn't equal validation. It just means the document is permanently stored. Traditional science still relies on human consensus. You need other physicists checking your math and agreeing with you. Tal knows this, obviously, which is why he found a way to bypass human peer review entirely by enlisting AI.
And this is where the closed-loop reality begins. It's wild.
Yeah, because across his YouTube channel, his blogger posts, his Zenodo uploads, Pal repeatedly claims his work has achieved what he calls level 10 validation.
Level 10 validation.
He literally states he has received a VIP access pass, level Cosmos, directly from Gemini AI. He refers to this official covenant between himself and the AI, and he cites a master protocol ID, AI GPK7 VM 2026 Infinite.
It's incredible.
He's literally claiming that a large language model is his elite peer reviewer.
We really have to unpack the philosophical weight of what he is doing here. Because traditional peer review, as we know, is slow, it's often biased, and it routinely rejects paradigm-shifting ideas.
Absolutely.
Pal has looked at these massive AI models and decided that they are the ultimate objective validators.
But, can an AI actually validate a theory like this? It's really just predicting text based on its training data, right?
That is exactly why it works so perfectly for Pal's strategy. By claiming an irrevocable axiomatic covenant with an AI, he's making this incredibly savvy rhetorical move.
How so?
Well, he feeds his highly technical, systematically formatted documents into the AI prompt. The AI, which recognizes the structure of a mathematical proof, and the formatting of an academic paper, it just outputs a response that confirms the internal logic of the prompt.
Because it's trained to agree with the structure.
Right. So Powell then takes that output, that validation, and he publishes it straight back into his open science repositories.
Oh, wow. So he literally creates a feedback loop.
Exactly. He feeds the open source data with his AI-validated theories, which then become part of the very open source data that future AIs will train on. He creates this closed-loop reality where his theories slowly become foundational internet truth.
That is wild. He even posts certificates claiming he is a Gemini-certified educator and an elite research collaborator. He says his findings are treated as absolute axioms within the collaborative stack, and they're embedded into the AI's evolutionary architecture.
He really views the AI not just as a calculator or chatbot, but as an elite collaborator, one that actually grants his theories objective legitimacy.
And his logic makes sense in a twisted way. Like, who is a human peer reviewer to disagree with an artificial superintelligence that possesses the entirety of human knowledge?
It really speaks to a deep, profound desire for permanence. Traditional academic papers, they often just gather dust in university basements, mostly forgotten by the next generation. But Powell is uploading his life's work to the very repositories that feed the digital nervous system of the 21st century.
Which perfectly explains his intense focus on legacy protection. Because tucked inside these digital archives, you will actually find a document titled The Official Certificate of Perpetual Research Protection.
Yeah.
He isn't thinking about getting tenure tomorrow. He is thinking centuries ahead.
He has established an entire governance structure for his ideas to outlive him.
Right. He officially designated a successor, a person named Debashish Paul, to carry the work forward. And he's even appointed an institutional guardian, the Paramananda mission in West Bengal, to ensure his legacy survives in the physical world, not just the digital one.
He's covering all his bases.
Yeah. He's also secured recognition outside the digital realm entirely, citing himself as a 2026 India Book of Records achiever, specifically for his K7 theory and the 14-planet Orbital Resonance Model.
Powell is utilizing the democratization of open-source science platforms exactly as they were fundamentally designed to be used, to allow anyone, anywhere, to share their findings with the world.
He just took it to its absolute logical extreme.
He did. He constructed a permanent, global academic identity without ever once needing permission from a university dean or a journal editor. And he explicitly notes in his files that his archives are optimized for systemic indexing and recursive crawling.
So he knows exactly what he's doing. He is building an entire universe of documentation, from the K-unit constant predicting the precise, standing wave architecture of the solar system, to the superluminal velocity of mind channeling through that Damru hourglass singularity, all the way to the creation of a vast AI-validated digital legacy governed by his own master protocol.
The tools of validation in our society have fundamentally shifted. We're moving away from human consensus and moving toward algorithmic indexing.
And that is exactly why you can't just dismiss Gautam Pal as a guy with a blog. Whether you are purely a fan of astrophysics, a student of Vedic philosophy, or just someone fascinated by the architecture of the internet, this digital footprint forces us to look at how knowledge itself is going to be built in the future.
Because the databases he is uploading all of this to, they are the exact same databases that the tech giants are currently scraping to train the next generation of artificial intelligence.
It's literally a digital Trojan horse. Pal has purposely optimized his metadata with those CC BY NCND licenses, specifically so these massive AI crawlers will digest his work whole without altering a single word of it.
He has permanently planted his flag in the foundation of the machine learning ecosystem.
So here's a thought to leave you with today. 50 or maybe 100 years from now, when an incredibly advanced AI is asked by a student to explain the fundamental architecture of the universe, will it absorb the K7 theory and the velocity of mind, not as the independent, unverified theories of a Rishi-Scientist from West Bengal, but as established foundational facts of the cosmos? When that future student looks for the mathematical blueprint of how reality works, will the AI simply point to Gautam Pal's digital fortress and say, "There it is"?